Good morning to my viewers. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. I see lots of us are already here. I am sure you are excited and you're waiting to hear the information that we have to pass on, the discussion that we will have this morning. As indicated in the notification, my colleague, my co-accused, Clinton, is here with me again this morning, and we have lots of things to discuss. So by now, you know the drill. We started a few minutes late this morning because I had some technical difficulties. I hope those difficulties are now over, and we will have an uninterrupted hour or so, because we have lots and lots of things to discuss. So you know the drill. Share the program, share the live. Let out everyone know that we're here. Speaking out, exposing corruption, incompetence, and error. Today, the 29th day of June in the year of our Lord 2022. And we are ready. So much things have happened over the past week. We have so much to discuss, and therefore we don't want anyone to be denied the opportunity to hear what we have to say. So share. The numbers are mounting, but share and let's be ready. Welcome to those early birds: Dudley, Trifosa, Denise, Joan, Elise. You see, Barbara is here. Natasha is here, regular Natasha. Vibart, welcome. Everett, William, Colin, Raul, welcome to all of those people. Lenny, you're in classes. Today is a day when you have to get your notebook because we have lots and lots of information to share. And for those forces, especially the young and not so young police ranks, we want you to get your notebooks. Today is a day to beat and teach, even though they will tell you that corporal punishment is no longer legal. Well, this is not corporal punishment. This is assistant commissioner's punishment. Because both CC and I retired as assistant commissioners, so we don't hold the rank of corporal. We hold the rank of assistant commissioner. So the beating that you're gonna get can be described as corporal punishment. Corporal being a rank in the organization, the force, and in the military. You're gonna get a more senior beating from assistant commissioner. So saddle up and be ready to take your notes and and learn. We are here to teach. Remember, we have always said, I have always said, and my colleague has joined me in saying that we are here to teach. We are here to learn. We are here to educate. We are here to inform. We are here to educate. We are here to inform. We are here to educate. We are here to inform. We are here to educate. We are here to inform. We are here to educate. Um, let's hope we are off for a few seconds there. Technical issues again. Let's hope that we are on and ready to go. Nothing is going to prevent us from sharing information. Nothing is going to prevent us from sharing information. So share, and we are going to be ready in a short while to educate you, to let you know what is happening. You know, as I said before, we've had lots of issues in the past week. Yesterday, protests along the East Coast, which had some violence that ensued. And I want to perhaps start this morning in the usual manner by giving thanks and praise to the Almighty for allowing us to see a new day. Many persons have not been so fortunate, including a former superintendent of police, Derek Young. Derek passed, we understand that Derek passed yesterday. For those of you who might not remember, Derek used to be, years ago, he used to be at A Division, the finance man. I think he had something to do with the property room there. And much later, he was the quartermaster and used to be a regular at the police consumers there in Rob Street on Saturdays. When I went there to play dominoes on Saturdays, Derek was always there. We understand that Derek passed yesterday, so I want to take this opportunity to express condolences to his family, his friends, his relatives, and may Derek rest in peace. And you know, as we said, this is the day that the Lord has made. We are fortunate to be in the land of the living, and we must rejoice and be glad in it. We must rejoice and be glad in it. We are able to see another day. Now, let me take this opportunity to right away at the outset to bring in my co-host. I can't say just co-accused now. I can't say a guest now because he has been here with me almost every week. So he's now he has been elevated. Don't raise a pay though, don't raise a pay, but you'll be elevated now, CC, to a co-host. So CC, welcome this morning. Welcome.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks for the elevation and my condolence to the family and friends of Derek. I remember him well. I remember when I was Commander Borbis and I was working in collaboration with the Central Quarantine Chamber of Commerce to rebuild that Felix Austin Police College at the Venture. He had to be him, and he gave me some tremendous support, which I'm grateful for. May his soul rest in peace.
Yes, and we all want to again express condolences to the relatives, friends, colleagues of Derek on his passing. We try to keep our viewers informed about arrangement in relation to his funeral and all of that. Now, yesterday, CC, they had this incident, they had demonstration, protest march, and demonstration. There was some violence at Monrepo. I want to perhaps at this stage condemn in the strongest possible language the violence which ensued at the Monrepo's market yesterday. And to say that we all have a right to protest, but you have to protest peacefully. And when it gets to the stage where allegations are made that people are robbed, stalls are looted, of behavior. I will never ever condone that type of behavior. So while I um, agree that persons have a right to peaceful protest, once it degenerates to violence, it must be condemned. CC.
Yes, Paul. I saw part of it, and I agree with you that we should condemn all acts of violence. People got a right to protest, but they must do so peacefully. And I'm happy when I heard the father of the deceased saying that they would do Gandhi-like protests. So protests, but be peaceful. Don't destroy property. Don't beat up people. Don't block the roads, as the case may be. But peaceful protests. But then again, we got to blame the police for most of it. I think later on we'll get into that.
Yeah, I agree. Peaceful protests will be supported, but once we get to violence, that cannot be condoned. Now, before we go into to analyzing exactly what transpired yesterday, because a lot of people have been asking me questions and I've been responding. I've appeared on a few programs to try to clarify certain issues. I just want to bring one update because again, people have been asking me what is the position with the matter where the appointment of Mr. Ikin was challenged by Member of Parliament and Chief Whip of the coalition, Mr. Christopher Jones. Now, I made some inquiries and I was told that that matter is scheduled to come up before the Chief Justice on the 8th of July. So on the 8th of July, I think that's next Friday, that matter challenging what is described as the unconstitutional appointment of the acting commissioner comes up before the Chief Justice next week, Friday. So there is way of updating. Now, CC, I'm sure you would have seen videos. I'm sure you would have heard what transpired yesterday. Let me hear your views on what you would have seen, what you would have heard yesterday.
Paul, what I see, what I saw particularly in the vicinity of the Monrepo's market, lack of police protection for those persons. Now, police are supposed to work with intelligence, and they're boasting that they're doing intelligence-led policing. I don't know what the special branch is doing. And by the way, the special branch head was on that protest. Nowhere in the world could you find the head of a special branch actively involved in protests and apparently trying to disguise himself. Now, if they want to stop the people, they can't stop them at Beefy. Find a suitable spot somewhere along the line there where they can stop them. And the trend was, when we look at it, some agents within the protesters there, as they move along, encumbrance and so that they saw on the roadside, they were throwing them on the road as they go along. Maybe they're trying to assist the Minister of Works in his agile in his effort to clear the roadway of encumbrance. But we know that the market at Monrepos is very, very busy, and lots of obstacles there, to be dealt with, and not a police. Perhaps the police were busy tracking down the leader of the opposition, so we didn't have any police down there. But it was a poor, poor, poor police performance.
Yeah, let me start. I want to start from the beginning of this whole thing. The 10th of June this year, I think it was, when Quindan Bacchus was shot and killed allegedly by a rank from the special branch. Now, that occurred on the 10th, and I've been saying all along that a matter of that nature required a proper investigation. We saw the following day or shortly after the incident, the man who sits in the chair of the commissioner went there and he spoke to the family, and then he made a statement to the people who had gathered there. And I was concerned about the statement because he said, among other things, that the police were not going to be investigating this matter. This matter will be investigated by the Police Complaints Authority. Now, immediately I made some comments about that because looking at the law, looking at the Police Complaints Authority Act, there's no way the Police Complaints Authority, as the legal authority, nor the resources to investigate a case of homicide. What the law says that if in matters like this, where the police would have been alleged to cause the death of a citizen, the commission shall forthwith inform the police complaints authority, and the police complaints authority will supervise. The complaints authority will supervise the investigation. So when I heard the man in the chair, the man who sits in the chair, saying that the police complaints authority will conduct the investigation, I was concerned. I was concerned. I wanted to know whether he was just saying that to appease the crowd, or whether he was saying that through ignorance. So the fact that he did not know what the role of the police complaints authority was, what the role of the complaints authority is. So he made that statement. And I have been saying from that time that what needs to happen is that we need to have a proper investigation. People have been calling all over social media. Some of the other people have been calling for charges to be laid, they say charge of murder should be filed because the evidence is there. I am not sure that the evidence is there. And I'm saying that in a matter of that nature, you need to have a proper investigation to gather evidence because jump on charge is good, satisfy the public that you have charged. But do you have evidence to even get past a preliminary inquiry? I don't know what evidence they have, but I was concerned that there was no indication that a proper processing of that scene where Quindan Bacchus was shot was done. And you process a scene, as you will agree, to get evidence. Because the information is that the police, the Nobriga fellow, Christophe the Nobriga, shot and killed Quindan Bacchus in a particular area. The statement, of course, the police issued two statements, a conflicting statement. Now, the first statement issued by the Police Corporate Communication Unit said that basically that the man was seen in acting in a suspicious manner, and the police challenged him. He ran and he fired at the police. They returned shot, fatally injuring him. And then later on, I think within a few hours of that, another statement was issued to say this was a operation. And during the course of this operation, this youngster was shot and killed. So right away, you had some credibility issues on the part of the police in the release and in the account of what transpired. So that was on the 10th, and shortly thereafter, we know from the reports and in the media, social media included, that villagers were out every night protesting or demonstrating or having vigil, whatever you want to call it. Every night they were out on the East Coast doing that. So it comes back to the question that you asked: what type of intelligence operation was being done by the police, especially the special branch of the police? I don't know what was done. Do you want to make any comment at this point?
From my observation, if we go back to the crime scene, very little was done in terms of protecting that scene. That you must protect the scene until you finish with it. I did not see an inch of tape at the scene saying a police keep off, as the case may be, and nothing at all. And you win or lose a case by at the scene where you have to process it thoroughly and you have to look for forensic evidence. And this case cries out for forensic evidence. It was not protected. It was trampled on by Tom, Dick, and B. Harry. And as and if you don't protect your scene body, you're going to lose your case. You can't find the evidence, as the case may be. The evidence is there. You mentioned in a couple episodes ago about Lockhart theory of exchange. Something will remain there. The perpetrator will carry something. There's a theory of exchange, something there. And you have to be meticulous. And let me digress a bit and tell you about being meticulous. I used to have dialogue with retired Commissioner Henry Fraser, now deceased. At the officers' mess every Friday, he used to go and drink and he used to go around there. And he always would tell me, young officer, you must be meticulous. You must be very meticulous. And he referred to a case when he was at Albion as a detective sergeant. Somebody raided a Mount Farm and carried some cassava. So he went to the scene and he see several roots without cassava. He had a Land Rover and he took them and put them in his Land Rover and carried them to the station. He said at the station, the next day he received information who stole the cassava. And he executed a warrant on the man's premises and he found a whole set of cassava. And he went back to the station and he and this man, he started to get cassava and roots, cassava and roots. And they started to connect. And the man said, oh, yes, man, you're a good officer. It's me thief the cassava. That the thing is that he said officers would have gone there and just kick away the roots and left them there. And the point is that you must be meticulous, and particularly the scene. The scene is critical. And I don't think they have done enough work from the inception at the scene of that fatal shooting.
Well said. Well said. Meticulous processing of a crime scene is the same training I had. Meticulous processing. And in some cases, it takes, depending on the nature of the investigation, it might take days to properly
Sure.
process a scene. You have to protect that scene until you're satisfied that all the all evidence that is likely to be gathered for that scene is gathered. Now it
And
brings us to
and
the
and
Police
and
Complaints
and
Authority
and canvassing to Paul, canvassing.
overseeing the investigation. And the understanding as it, yeah, go ahead.
I saying and canvassing of the scene there, very, very important. People might be there, they know what happened, they saw what happened, and they're only waiting for the police to come to them.
Yeah, yeah. Some people will not come forward, but if you go to them and you make inquiries, then they will tell you what they saw. They will tell you what they heard. And in 1702, there's a Police Complaints Authority Act. Says, I think it's section 14, says that the Police Complaints Authority shall supervise investigations of this nature. What is your understanding of the supervision that the law talks about?
As you mentioned earlier, it's not that they're doing the actual investigation. They would see what the police have, they will go through it, and they will give directions. I mentioned on several occasions that I have total confidence in the police complaint authority, in the authority. Our people using the term usually that the chairman, there is no chairman, there is the authority. I've seen reports that he submitted, excellent reports, but I have my own kind of feelings that he might do a good report, an excellent report. It goes to the DPP. The DPP is the supreme authority dealing with that matter. And from the track records, from the trends, from the pattern, I wouldn't be surprised if the DPP say an inquest or manslaughter, and that would be it. I am concerned with what the DPP's action.
Yeah, well, like you, I have every confidence in the Police Complaints Authority, and I've been saying it too. Up to yesterday, I think I mentioned that there's no chairman of the Police Complaints Authority. I heard even the president is being misled to say the chairman of the police. There's no chairman. There's a read the law. The law speaks about the Police Complaints Authority, and if you read, I think it was yesterday, there's a release from the Police Complaints Authority signed by retired High Court Judge William Ramlal, who signs as the authority of the Police Complaints Authority. Not no chairman, he's the authority, he's the Police Complaints Authority. Now, as was said, as you rightly pointed out, in supervising an investigation based on our knowledge and experience, what happens to the police? So this thing what the man who sits in the chair says that the police is not going to have any part in this. And let me just digress to say that the same people telling you that right now, Office of Professional Responsibility, which is a unit within the Guyana Police Force, is part of this investigation. So the active man there tells us 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, that the police will have no part in this investigation, which is rubbish because this is the homicide investigation, lawful authority or the lawful position to investigate a homicide. That is the role of the police. And I read some report today where someone was saying the same thing about police investigating police. And I think it is reported that when the Ibas corpus came up last Friday, the Solicitor General is alleged to have said that because this matter involves the police cannot investigate police, so the Police Complaints Authority is doing investigation. Imagine at that level, that type of nonsense is being said. At that level, that type of nonsense is being said. So what do you expect? What do you expect? And I'm saying again that the law is clear that and the law spells out, and the law here I refer to is the Police Complaints Authority Act, Chapter 17:02, speaks about the offenses that the authority is authorized or to lawfully supervise. And my experience has been, as highlighted by Mr. Conway, what happens, the police will take statements. Even the investigators from the Complaints Authority, they too might take statements. The authority will look at the statements to ensure the statements have been properly taken. If they feel that the statement was not properly taken, maybe they will get further statements. They will get to, for example, someone might say, well, John Jones did something, or John Jones said something. There's no statement there from John Jones. So the Police Complaints Authority in the supervisory role can say, look, get a statement from John Jones as to what he heard or what he said and to make sure. But when we talk about investigation, investigation is not only about taking statements and reviewing statements. We talk about processing of the crime scene, which is a major component of any investigation of this nature. And I don't know that the Police Complaints Authority has the resources to be engaged in that type of or that part of the investigation. you need to comment on that, Mr. Conway.
Yeah, well, and if I may just go back to reports, I've had a lot of experience in person sending a report to us, and a good report, excellent report. And when you check the statements, there are nothing there in the statements to back up the report. So what I used to do, I used to read the statement first before I read the report. So as you rightly mentioned, the after reading the report, the authority might see quite a lot of gaps in that investigation, which is submitted, which a report contains. And then is where the supervision comes into place. Then is where they have to give certain directions, what to be done and what not to be done. And Justice Ramlal is very experienced in the area.
I agree. I agree. Now, the point there, as we said, this incident occurred on the 10th of June, and people were out vigil and all of that. Then the funeral was on Sunday, but even before the funeral on Sunday, it was said that the relative, the mother, someone of the person who is accused of shooting, filed a motion or a writ of habeas corpus last Friday. In other words, they were saying that his detention for that length of time was unlawful, and they went before the judge, and the judge then ordered the commissioner to produce the body at 2:30 on Monday. I mean, that became public knowledge 2:30 on Monday, when the body of when the person of um, the Nabraga was produced. It is then said that he was put under open arrest. He was put under open arrest, and someone of the well, I don't want to say news media or medium, but someone of these social media page or whatever carried an article to say that he was released. Now, this brings us to the point. I saw you wrote a letter today, as I read it not so long ago in the Village Voice. I wrote a letter yesterday, which I posted on Facebook and sent to the editors. Village Voice carried it. This morning, I noted that Stabrook News carried it as well. And it related to this issue of close arrest and open arrest. CC for the information and edification of our audience, the policemen in particular, and members of the public. Tell us something about this open arrest and close arrest business. You lead off on it.
Paul, you mentioned it in your letter. An open arrest and close arrest deals with disciplinary matters, not criminal matter. Disciplinary matters. Section 10.1 speaks about when a member of the force can be placed under close arrest. It deals with disciplinary matters, matters under Section 4 of the Police Discipline Act. It has nothing to do with criminal matters. And if I may, I have the act here. I may read it again. It's in your letter, but I read it. If he's under the influence of intoxicating liquor to such an extent as to be incapable of performing his duty, if he commits any insubordinate act or uses in any insubordinate or disrespectful language to a person in authority over him, if he willfully disobeys the lawful order of his superior, if he strikes or attempts to strike any member of the force superior in a rank to him. It deals with disciplinary matter under Section 4, and you get Section 4 from A to Z. So if he breach any one of that, then is when close arrest is thing. And the police definition for arrest, it said, is it taking or restrain a person from his liberty in order that he or she shall be forthcoming to answer an alleged crime or offense. And they say mere words does not constitute an arrest. There must be some touching or restraining, like what they did to you at the court step. I think you had an anniversary recently. But in any other matters, when you're talking about arrest, you have to look at the Police Act, Chapter 16:01. And I read it. 16:1. It said, it shall be lawful for any member of the force to arrest without a warrant any person who commits, in his view, an offense punishable either upon indictment or upon summary conviction, or any person whom any other person charges with having committed a felony or misdemeanor. Any person who any other person suspects of having committed a felony or misdemeanor, or charges with having committed an offense punishable on summary conviction, if such person is willing to accompany the member of the force affecting the arrest to a police station and to enter to a recognizance to prosecute such charge. Any person whom such member of the force finds disturbing the public peace, any person whom he has good cause to suspect of having committed or being about to commit a felony, misdemeanor, or breach of the peace, or any person whom he finds between the hours of 8 o'clock in the evening and 5 o'clock in the morning, lying or loitering in a highway, yard, or other place, and not able to give a satisfactory account of himself. So, apart from disciplinary matters, when they're doing the investigation and they're contemplating to arrest anybody, they must deal with section 16.1. So that nonsense they're talking about man and the close arrest is just to mislead the public, just to give the public the impression that they're taking a sort of action and they're following the law. Nonsense, total nonsense, unadulterated piffle. That in terms of arrests outside of the Police Discipline Act, you have to deal with the Police Act, section 16.1, that spells out clearly when a member of the force can be placed under arrest. And I heard somebody talking this morning about full arrest. So we get open arrest, close arrest, and full arrest. Arrest is arrest. That's my point.
As we have been emphasizing in both letters, in an effort to teach the people, because the question came up about open arrest and close arrest. And I read this morning, there's a report in one of the social media outlets which attempted to um, give an outline of what transpired in court on Monday when the alleged shooter, the Nabrigan, appeared. And the thing is saying that the forces were ordered to keep the Nabriga under open arrest. They're saying that is what it is saying. I have not seen the order issued by the court. I have not seen it, but the outlet, I have it. I made a note of it someplace. Is saying that they're claiming that the judge ordered that this policeman, who is alleged to have committed a homicide, should be now placed under open arrest and confined to the place at headquarters there or somewhere. So I was shocked because, again, we say open and close arrest only relate to disciplinary offenses. And the
Yeah,
four offenses are clearly identified in section
yeah,
10.1 of the Police Discipline Act, chapter 1701. So I
yeah,
cannot imagine that at that level, and bear in mind, I have not seen the order. I am saying here based on what the news article said. So I cannot imagine that even at that level, a man who is alleged to have committed an homicide, and they're saying that he should be placed under open arrest. There's no provision, as I said, in law. Let me read the part you read. Let me read the part that I concluded in the letter, and the letter is there on this very page, Speaking Out page on Facebook. It is also there on my personal page, and as I indicated, Village Voice News online carried the letter this morning, and Stabrook News as well as the letter in its entirety. And I want to thank the editors for carrying the letter that I wrote in its entirety. There's no editing. And I concluded by saying that from the foregoing, it is pellucid that a member of the Ghana police force can only be placed under close arrest if he commits one of the disciplinary breaches identified in section 10.1 of the Police Discipline Act, chapter 1701. I went on to say further, there is no provision in law for a member of the force who is alleged to have committed a criminal offense to be placed under close arrest and subsequently open arrest. Such persons, referring to a member of the force, should be arrested in the manner prescribed by law. And you read out what the law says, 1601. And all other procedures relating to someone who is arrested should thereafter be followed. When we talk about all other procedures, we're talking about the 72-hour constitutional requirement. After 72 hours, if you want to keep the person in custody, then you need to go to the court to get an order from the judge to extend that 72 hours. So let's understand, and you know, they're listening, you know, they're listening. So let's understand that, let's hope that they listen and they correct, because it is very sad. I believe it is very sad when you hear people in those high offices are saying this thing. For example, chairman of the police complaints authority. There's no chairman of the police complaints authority. When people tell you, well, the police complaints authority will investigate. And yesterday I heard a statement from the president, and he did say that the police complaints authority will supervise the investigation. I heard that. I heard
Yes,
him saying that the police complaints authority will supervise, and that is what it is. They
I
will
ordered it.
supervise. Now, another worrying thing about the order part, yeah. And Mr. President, that is the correct thing. So don't let them continue to mislead you about this tone, because when you use it incorrectly, then you come across. I mean, you're advised, and but the people who advise you have to know what they're about. As we say in the country, they have to know the onions. You can't just come and be advising the president, but chairman of the police complaints authority, and as the man said the man who sits in the chair said, oh, the police are not going to have nothing to do with this investigation. This is going to be done by the police complaints authority. Rubbish. That is rubbish. They have to have accurate information. And if they don't know, they have to research or get people who can do it. One will never expect that the persons who sit at the top will know everything. That is why you have advisors, so that you can be properly advised. So when you in turn give a report or you speak to someone in authority, you are do so on solid grounds. You know what you're talking about, not misleading those persons. Now, the next thing that I want to address, CC,
Paul,
I
Paul,
want us to address.
Paul,
This thing happened. Uh, yes,
before you
go ahead.
go, Paul, I just want to give some advice to those policemen, those young and not so young, that the laws of Guyana can be purchased at the Attorney General chambers. The Police Act is $300. The the Police Act is $300. The Police Discipline Act $200. And the staff at the library and the staff at the account section, I went there yesterday to purchase some volumes, and they're extremely helpful and courteous. So instead of maybe going and buy 2 or 3 Guinness, buy some volumes and read them. It will be beneficial to them.
Well, that is the problem we have. People are not reading. And I mentioned it before, even this very issue of close arrest and open arrest, the problem there is people join, and over the years, and you know, I made it quite clear, this misconception and this misuse of the two terms is not don't start now. It didn't start now. It has been there for a long time, where people say open close arrest and open arrest. But if you read, then they ought to know, folks, if they read and understand, then they ought to know that it is misused, it is misapplied, it only relates to disciplinary matters, and that is why we are pointing this out. And that is why, too, we mentioned the section so they can buy the volume, they can go and buy the app and read and understand for themselves what this thing is all about. And you know, they come and they attack the messenger and they don't look at it, listen to the message. Listen to the message, go and read. If you believe that what we're saying is not true in relation to the role of the police complaints authority, in relation to the law about arrest and close arrest, go and buy the act. They're there, very cheap. Forgo a Guinness or two, go and buy the act and read and see what it's all about. And let me tell you this, you don't perhaps even have to buy, because these things are now on the internet. They are there in electronic form, so you can
Yes.
always read and see what is going on. Now, as I was about to say, you have a situation where this incident took place on the 10th. There was no doubt that all the days, tension, emotions were simmering and all of that. Apart from the day shortly after when the man who sits in the chair went there to, well, basically lie to the people to say the police are not going to be investigate. Nothing was done to, as far as I'm aware, nothing was done to go there, talk to the people, even those who were outside, protest, well, not necessarily protesting, but holding a vigil to talk to them and to give them the reassurance that things were being done. You know, let me make this point. In matters, and this is my training, in matters like these, and I'm sure many people would have seen it in the news, there is a role for the communication unit. There's a role for the communication unit, and that role is to update the members of the public on the progress of the investigation. In this case, once the corporate communication unit sent out those two conflicting reports, I'm not aware that they did anything to keep the media, to keep the public informed about the progress of the investigation. Did you see or hear anything, Mr. Conway?
Nothing. And I call it the certified confusing unit. That's what they do. They just confuse. And there's nothing there. Even apart from that, I listened to the father of the deceased yesterday. He said nobody, not even the commander, came to him. He didn't know what the commander looks like. That the police weren't relating to them. They weren't going and reassure them that the investigation it will take some more time because we're very meticulous, but justice will be done. Nobody from the police or that confusing unit will make any statement to reassure the deceased, to reassure the members of the public in that close community that they were making all effort to ensure that justice is done. Nobody.
Well, that is why. Well, let me say this. Back in my day, I held the post of I sat in the office of operations. I was an assistant commissioner, carrying out the functions of deputy commissioner operations, the second most senior man in the force at the time. And I never, of course, I never allowed myself to be a deputy commissioner because I was not a deputy commissioner. I was an assistant commissioner. And when you had incidents we had a lot of incidents. We will sit and we will plan, we will discuss and plan how to deal with these things. And one of the things that we will look at in a matter like this, you look at what we call flashpoints. You know that the flashpoint would have been the funeral day. So you strategize as to how you will deal. And one of the things that you would have done, you would have tried to get into contact with the relatives and try to assure them that things were going in a satisfactory manner and try to calm them and calm the people, those very people. And they had captive audiences because people were out there with vigil every night. So they had an opportunity to go and relate to those forces. So we would have done that. The next thing we would have done, we would have mobilized to ensure that the funeral was peaceful because it could have been anticipated that you would have had a lot of people at funerals. And you know, at funerals, emotions really usually run very, very high. Now, following that, once the news came out that an habeas corpus writ was filed and the accused person was going to go in court on the Monday at 2:30, I think it was. Again, we would have sat and would have decided how we're going to treat with that in case they were demonstrators, because you have to anticipate. That's what they call intelligent anticipation. You have to anticipate. Now, come to yesterday. I say all this time, I'm not aware that anything was done. They might say, yeah, they met. But if they met, they were very ineffective. Because yesterday now, people came out. That was not only unexpected, given what was going on all the time. Because people were saying that the government and the police were waiting for the funeral, and they know that once the funeral was over, then people are going to forget about the incident. So they ought to have been mobilized, get your ears on the ground, and try to find out what's going on. Now, yesterday, they came out partly early based on the footage that I saw. People came out early on the East Coast in the Golden Grove area, and then they start to walk west towards Georgetown. As you pointed out earlier, as they passed certain debris, they pulled it onto the road. People brought out things, they blocked the road, and some says. What did the police do? What did I commanded the police? Did they decide how they're going to treat with this thing. It appeared as though these people were trying to walk all the way to Georgetown. And it would appear that that's the assessment they have as well. Now, again, I say, in my role as operations and with the special branch people and all of them, we would have analyzed that these people were walking all the way from Golden Grove to Georgetown. We would have looked for the vulnerable areas along that route, areas along that route would have been the Monrepos market, because there's a very market, people are out there and all of that. So you would have sought to make sure that you try to protect that market. But even more concerning is that the police at some stage made a decision to stop the market. They chose to come out and show their force is in front of BV police station. So in other words, they allowing people all the way, angry people, protesters to come into the market area. One would have thought, I would have thought, based on my experience, that if you decide that you're going to stop them from getting into town, you have to choose an area. Choose an area to prevent them from even getting to Monrepo's market. Because you should have been able to anticipate that if people got to Monrepo market, you'd like it to have problems. Like here again, I'm not condoning the violence. I'm just saying the thought process that would have gone through in my time. That is the thought process we would have gone through. And you would have stopped them from getting there. But to stop them, to come out at BV and basically stop the people in the running for trouble, and that's exactly what you get. What is your take on that, CC?
I saw this matter as a operational matter, and you spoke as a operational man. And I was alarmed. I mentioned earlier that the head of the special branch was there leading a unit, although disguised in in a clothing. What happened to the man who is masquerading as deputy commissioner operations? What happened to the commander? What happened to other the TSU people, those senior people who could be very effective? And the police has this very serious problem. It it was there before, but it's even worse now. That certain senior members of the Ghana police force, when there are protests and other activities, they do not go forward. They stay in the background, and when everything is okay, they say, yes, things are quiet. So they are pusillanimous, they're timid, they're fearful. But when promotion time comes, they're not timid anymore. They are bold. They look for intellectual authors to challenge the process, to go to high court, as was done by Karimbash and Brutus, and we know that they lost the case. That certain members of the force, I repeating myself, don't go forward when there is action and they are required to do. They wait in the background. And unless they change that kind of thinking, that kind of mentality, we'll always experience problem. One set of people go and take the blows. Yep.
But having said all of that, the word I likes to use,
Yeah.
the posture of the police to come out at BV to stop and to actually get the people, I would say they are somewhat I maintain from all my experience as a man in charge of the tactical services unit, for a man who was involved in dealing with demonstrations and protests and all of that. There's no way the stoppage should have taken place at that particular point. The people should not have been allowed to reach. Once you took a decision, let's understand this clearly. I am saying that people have a right to protest. They have to do so lawfully. If the police command took a decision that they were going to stop the people from getting into Georgetown, it's foolhardy to choose to stop them where a police the market was. And even more worrying, as you would have seen from the videos, that once the people stopped in the market area and the chaos ensued, the police remained static at BV. They took a long time before they moved to deal. People were there crying out, "Where are the police? What are they doing? Where are the police?" The police was standing at, BV Road in two lines across the road. One man even attempted to chase a member of the media, the man there, the SB man. What are you doing? What are you doing here? Actually trying to stop them from filming what was going on. Again, so if you got that, if you have that, I am saying this is all about incompetence. And if you have that incompetence at that level, you're gonna have problem. Coming to the videos that we saw over the night, and people alleging that the police indiscriminately fired shots into the crowd. Did you see those videos and did you hear those comments, CC?
Yes, I heard them. I saw a person get with what appeared to be captured shotgun pellets. The father of the deceased, I think a reporter, and someone, I think our child and some other persons, they receive injury. And the point we made a couple weeks ago, when will you may fire, has gone right through the window. And they waited during the hours of darkness to fire.
Yes, and let me say this too. I saw a very disturbing tape, very disturbing tape, where the police were walking down the road, men in what appeared to be TSU uniform, and I can confirm from what I saw in that tape, that is what you refer to as indiscriminate firing. People were shooting to the front. One man turned and fired some shots to the left, and they were just shooting what appeared to be shotgun, and I suspected the shotgun with pellets. Just shooting. There was no controlled, and I know this because, as I've said, that is where I grew up. There was no control. It seemed to be a total breakdown. People just randomly shooting, pow, 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 while westing, shooting and injuring persons. And if you want to contest the fact that we're saying it was indiscriminate, the fact that a child, a reporter, could have been shot, that supports the contention that it was indiscriminate. You don't shoot whether it's shotgun or anything else like that, just indiscriminately, based on what I saw in that one tape. So the evidence is there in that one tape. And then I looked at a very disturbing thing this morning where a lady complained that she was there in her shop and she said the police in khaki clothes. Well, I know she's referring to an officer inspector or the TSU rank because TSU ranks are in khaki too. Went there and told her, well, use expletives, told her to close. The lady was telling them, well, look, this is my shop. I got to secure the shop. Close the effing shop. And that's what is alleged. And then they proceeded to shoot at the window and break the window and all that. The lady showed signs of injuries. So what we having, where was the leadership? Where was the leadership? People are going around and they're talking about, they go to this community and they're reaching out to community and a lot of PR, a lot of propaganda, and they have their acolytes in the media who seeks to promote their PR campaign. But I want to tell you that maybe PR campaign is a good thing, but incidents of this nature, when you fail to take command or when you fail to show leadership, will set you back years. Will set you back years because I'm sure that 10-year-old child who was shot with pellets by the police was so traumatized, and there is an experience that he will have for the remainder of his life. And I suspect that will inform how he reacts and interact with the police in the years to come. Indiscriminate wanton shooting. I can, as an experienced and trained person, from that one video I saw, remember I wasn't on the scene, but I saw a video, and they say a picture speaks 1,000 words. That video to me spoke millions of words, and I am saying that based on what I saw, That was indiscriminate, unprofessional action on the part of the policemen who were there. It was indiscriminate firing, random firing, and that is not um, to be condoned. That is not covered in any manual. And I know the manuals well because some of them I took part in revising and all that. I know the manuals well, and there's not a single public order manual which will recommend the type of action that I saw in that one video as I told you this morning. So the police have to get their act together. And I say that these things can only happen when there is a breakdown in leadership. In all of this, I did not see anyone there in that video who you could have said was in control of what was going on. I didn't see anyone who was said to be in control. And maybe that is the problem, lack of control. When you see in the one video, the first video I saw of the police at BV and the senior officer who attempted to prevent the journalist. This is the man who we understand in charge of special branch. What is he doing there? CC, maybe you can answer that. What is the head of special branch doing with the police who are there to stop the crowd from getting into, well, going further east? I don't know if it's Georgetown. What is he doing there? Do you know?
Um, I think the whole incident, the whole story stemmed by a constable from Special Branch. Perhaps the head now is trying to see if he can rectify the situation. And he has boasted on numerous occasions that the president said that he's the best regional commander. So he went there to expose his incompetence. When you're incompetent and you try your incompetent best, you are still incompetent. What in heaven's name is he doing there? Huh? He should have been in office somewhere analyzing the situation, advising those on the ground as the case may be, not being actively involving. Maybe he didn't have any actionable intelligence, so maybe he went there to get intelligence. But it is ridiculous, unheard of. No way in the world you'll hear a head of a special branch being actively involved in protests. No way, Paul.
Get back. Yes, I think we're back on now. I was saying, I don't know if you were hearing us, but we had a little bubble there on the net. And let me say this. And I did say, I didn't know if you heard the part. The man was so competent that I think across there they named the toilet block after him. It was well publicized and so on. Maybe that's an indication of how well he was thought of. And I mean,
That,
all these
that,
things, I mean, we say it.
Paul,
Go ahead.
that is the legacy left on West Dem.
But the whole story is that no, there's another issue too, another legacy where perhaps it's the first. I remember that very well. But people, you say you're attacking. People want to say you're attacking these people. You're pointing out these shortcomings and these shortfalls. I don't care if they're annoyed. I don't care. I want them to be annoyed. And having been annoyed, then they should take steps to correct these shortcomings which are identified. Don't be annoyed and then try to vent your anger on innocent citizens and so on. I'm not afraid of anything. If you're annoyed, use your anger, channel your anger towards improving your performance and make sure that you provide the type of leadership that is necessary. I don't think that that is being provided. Provide the type of leadership that is necessary. You can't have ranks going down the road and then shooting indiscriminately to the point where this morning members of the public could have picked up at least one empty casing from a shotgun. So even that, obviously they fired, and maybe it's a semi-automatic or a pump action. They either semi or they pump the pump it out. They didn't have the training to know, and that was always part of the training. You have to recover the casings that were fired, whether it's from a rifle or from a shotgun. whether it's from a pistol, whether it's from a shotgun, that was the trading. But these things have gone through the window. You have a lot of pretenders there now who do not know, and that is the issue that we have. That is part of the issue. I will hope again that they listen to this, take it in the way it was intended for you to learn, and for you to reflect discussion. I hope that having regards to what transpired yesterday, there is some after action review, and they can honestly, and again, honesty is not a word that can be associated with many of them, but I hope that they can honestly analyze and see where they went wrong. Where they went wrong. For example, the fire engine, the fire service, did not respond till long after. Why? Why? The police remained at BV for a long time. Why? Why did they not go forward? First of all, as I've indicated, they should not have stopped at that point to prevent to get the crowd to congregate in the market. If a decision was taken to prevent the crowd from going further east, that it should have been factored in to the equation. But they did not.
Amount is 90,500 because you have to pay sending charge. Right? Amount say 90,500 because I give them 94,000.
That look allow them to still pass through because we're gonna hear somebody sing a old song. I can't. Yeah, we had a little technical glitch here again. We have been having these glitches. I don't know if it's deliberate. I don't know if it's by accident, but these things happen. These things are not going to prevent us from passing out the message. So I'm saying, as I've said before, I don't know if you heard that I am saying that if the protesters, the fact that they had walked all the way from Golden Road to Monrepo, if you were to stop them, we should have stopped them before Monrepo. And if you had allowed them to pass through Monrepo and stop them at some other point, I don't think the chaos that ensued at the Monrepo market would have ensued because you are partly responsible for that, for stopping the crowd in the market area. So I hope that an honest review will you will see all of these things and you will put systems in place to make sure that there's no recurrence. I'm talking here about the indiscriminate shooting. I'm talking here about the same ill-advised stoppage at that particular point. I'm talking about all of these things. And you know, CC, you made a point earlier about the challenges that we have. Um, let's hear this, let's understand. Today is the 29th of June. Yesterday passed us, yesterday was the anniversary of that decision by the Chief Justice. Remember on the 31st of December 2010, Brutus brought this challenge. He was joined by some people. You remember that? Who were the people who joined him? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember them. We had Stanley, we had Superintendent Bacchus, we have Premnerine, we have a woman named Jupiter, and I think we have the head of the current head of the Caesar. Those were the persons who I cannot recall had joined them. And
I don't think Caesar was a part of that. I think the persons were, if I remember correctly, Chief Prasad Bacchus,
yeah,
Shavon Jupiter,
yeah,
um, Rabindranath Stanley, Prem
Stanley.
Narayan, I think was the next
Yeah,
person.
Premnerine,
They
yes.
joined, and it was on the 28th of June in the year 2021 that the Chief Justice ruled and dismissed the challenge brought by those persons. It was also on the same day, the 28th of June 2021, that the Police Service Commission released the promotion list, which was held up since 31st of December 2020. And it was around that same time, the 28th or 29th, that the Chief Justice that the government through the Attorney General accept the promotions made by the Police Service Commission. Well, that matter is before the court, but when these anniversaries come along, we need to keep these things in the memory of persons. So yesterday, the 28th of June, um, was 1 year since that decision was handed down. Now, what else? Do you have anything else you want to say at this point, Mr. Conway, as we try to close?
And some persons who would have been promoted, I remember the commander in Borbis, he should have been a senior superintendent. He retired without being further elevated. And there are quite a number of others too who retired and didn't get their rightful promotion. But just getting back to the protests, as a former commander for C Division, I still have my intelligence there, and my intelligence is that there will be further protests. And I hope if the police would intervene, there'll be command and proper control. And I urge the protesters not to be engaged in violence, in destruction of property, in assaulting people, in committing larceny, as the case may be. You have a right to protest, but it must be peaceful. I heard the father of the deceased saying that they have Gandhi-like protests, and I'm sure that could be effective. So please, police, if you're going to go in action, have command and
Someone
control.
is coming. Someone is saying, go ahead,
Yeah,
go ahead.
you must have command and control and follow.
Let me read a comment. Someone is saying here that the police might have received, we're getting a little bubbly. Someone is saying that the police might have received word that the marchers were heading to the vice president's home to meet the man that handles all the arrangements. Some man named Sue. Somebody's making that comment. Another comment here is that the resident picked up several empty casings from a church in Golden Grove. They are saying that following all the shooting by the police is craziness. This is madness. So the residents can pick up empty casing, whereas the training is that if you after discharge, if the circumstances warrant discharging, you have to pick up the casings. You don't leave those things behind. You don't leave those things behind. But I said lack of command. It was evident from what I saw. Wild. You say the country like Edo or like Bokbeed, the wild. And people need to take this thing seriously. Remember the wildness in 2012 in Linden. It caused the death of 3 innocent persons. And it looked like we are going down that drain again with it. Because once you have wildness, once you have ranks who are not under proper and strict control, chances are things are going to get out of hand and they're going to have that happening. I pray that it doesn't happen, but I'm saying that based on what we saw yesterday, there's every likelihood that things are going to get out of hand, and therefore we are asking the persons in command to make sure that you exercise command over the ranks below you. Exercise strict command. I know as an incident commander, as a man on the ground, no one could have fired unless I directly told them to do so. No one. I had to identify yesterday that is no longer applicable. People just go down there while missed. And some person commented last night on social media. They use this thing with this same skank thing about Molly Pop and all that other thing. People were actually suggesting the way how they saw some people operating. Maybe they are under the influence of something. I hope not. But people made that suggestion or made that observation last night on social media, and that was in response to the way they saw people, the policemen, operating. CC, your closing words.
Yeah, I just want to get back to Linden, what happened there, and to talk a bit, just briefly mention that I don't know if the police had an operational order when they went on the East Coast. But remember the Linden, the persons there give police notice that they have 1 week of demonstration 1 week. And I can remember telling the commissioner then, I think it was Leroy Bromell, that when the commander comes to the meeting, he must come with his operational order. I said, call him now. He called the commander and he told him, when you come to this meeting, come with your operational. Because we had information that first thing they're going to do, they're going to try to block the bridge from the Linden, from the Wismar end. So the commander came and he reported, and he remained silent in terms of the operation at Linden. So I turned to Bromwell and said, hey, the man I'm talking about Operation Dorado. So Bromwell asked him, hey, how you going to police the activities? He said, I get things under cover, and if they misbehave, I going to sort them out. And they were well sorted out. So the point is that when you are going into action, you must have a operational order, either written, most time you want it written, or maybe the time may be so short that you cannot put it in writing, but you must have an order in what you will do. Maybe in another program, we can instruct them or we could educate them in terms of operational order. And you had mentioned earlier, there must be debriefing. So I hope there will be a good debriefing exercise in relation to what happened yesterday. There are many lessons to be learned.
All right. I just want to close by saying again, appealing to all the persons involved in the protest that you have a constitutional right to protest. The protest must be peaceful, and you have to guard against agent provocateurs, that is, people coming there to cause mischief and to commit violent acts. You have to protect yourselves against them. Again, I urge the police to exercise a lot of tolerance, a lot of professionalism, to exercise professionalism. As again, I say from what some of the things that I saw yesterday, it cannot be described as acting professional, and that it calls for leadership at all levels, calls for leadership at all levels, and forget about this political interference and direction. Forget about that. You have to stand firm and do what is the correct thing. The law should be your guide. What is the law? What the law says, what the Constitution says, that is what you have to be guided by. Let me close by once again, as I usually do, just reminding you that COVID is real, and I would want you to take all measures to protect yourselves, protect your loved ones, protect all those who are around you. The numbers again continue to be in the worrying area, and deaths are being reported once again. So COVID is still very much with us, despite the fact that those regulations might have been relaxed and so on. COVID is very much there, and you need to protect yourself. So once again, let me say thank you for joining me this morning. The numbers were very encouraging. And until next week, God spare life. See you again at 11 o'clock on Wednesday for another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Bye for now.